Well, hello and welcome to our weekly look at Tipping University football. Hi, everybody. I'm Russ Snyder, voice of the Dragons. 2 guests today. Last week we had 3. This week 2. All the way to the left, head coach Cris Reisert. Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Awesome. Good to see you again, especially on a victory Monday or
Absolutely.
Victory Wednesday, whatever it is.
Don't matter what day it is, as long as we call it victory in front of it, right?
Exactly right.
And it's in between us, Bobby Petras, alumni extraordinaire, what do you say, here on campus. So welcome to the Coach Cris Reisert Show.
Thank you. Great day to be a Dragon.
Absolutely, especially after a win like that, Coach. So if we went through every scoring play, we'd probably be here until the bus left for St. Anselm. So let's just kind of, first off, say congratulations to your quarterback and your kicker. You got the Offensive Player of the Week and the Special Teams Player of the Week. First off, let's talk about Casey and your quarterback. He had a very good day for you on his first day here. It'd be real easy to be awful nervous on your first game in a uniform, but he looked pretty comfortable from the get-go.
Yeah, I think it's really been a carryover from fall camp. You know, he got here in the spring and went through some of those growing pains, and we kind of force-fed him, and then throughout fall camp, he really started to assert himself as the guy. And I think you've seen each week that his confidence has grown, and so really was a byproduct of the preparation all summer, you know, all fall camp, and then to be able to go out and have success, I think was good for him, good for our team. He's a really good player, and we're excited for his continued progression. I think the best is yet to come.
And you got to play a lot of kids on the offensive side of the football that day. About 8 or 9 different guys got targeted as a wide receiver. So even though, you know, a great win, a big win is always a lot of fun, but I think in the big picture of it all, you got a lot of really good quality experience for a lot of the guys who are maybe on the lower end of that depth chart.
Yeah, no, we did, and we're super excited about the depth and the way that we've recruited over the past couple of years. I think that it speaks to what you saw on a day like Saturday, where you know our second and third and fourth string guys are getting in the game, and they're really good players too. And so, you know, we talked a lot as a staff about, you know, for us, it's neat that every Monday and Tuesday is competition, you know, and you may have started one week, you might not start the next week, and you're going to have to earn it every single day in practice with your preparation and with your performance.
Well, competition brings out the best in you, right?
It does.
And then your kicker, Grant Woodfin, gets a Special Teams Player of the Week, also setting a Tippin record with his 10 extra points. Could have had 11 if the first one would have been, you know, the snap would have been handled. But, wow, what a game for him, and what a game for him to build his confidence moving forward, too.
Yeah, without a doubt. Wood's a great kid, and in his first college football game, too. You know, was a redshirt last year and really burst into the scene in fall camp, and he's reliable. I think he's one of those kids that mentally is super focused and super stable in terms of his ability to overcome pressurized situations. And so you saw that on Saturday. I think as the season goes on and those bigger moments come up, I'm confident that he'll come through and perform. I think we can't forget about Ryan Young, our long snapper, and every single snap's right on the money. And then you know, obviously Matt, our punter and holder, had a little bit of a blunder in that first one, but bounced back.
Put it behind him. Everything was great after that.
And found a way to not flinch and perform as the day went on.
Yeah, Dragons 79-14 winner on Saturday over McKendree, and credit McKendree, though, they came in ready to play from the get-go. Come down and scored their first 2 drives. Before we go any further, that Yogi Flagger is a heck of a football player, that wide receiver out there. He did a lot of good things, and then Coach Price and his defensive staff, the adjustments they made, took him out of the ball game. After it was 14-6, they didn't get a whole lot after that.
Yeah, no, I mean, credit to them, right? They came out and scored, and we matched it in 4 plays, and then they came out and scored, and we matched it in 3 plays, and then they came back and had an opportunity. Caleb Street gets a pick 6 and takes it to the house, and at that point, the pendulum kind of swung, and then we get a stop, score, and that was kind of the routine moving forward. I give our defense a lot of credit. I think, you know, as a program, we talk a ton about not flinching, right? And being able to overcome adversity, deal with setbacks, deal with the momentum flows in football, because there's many of them. And so I thought our defense never lost composure. I thought our offense gave them an opportunity to catch their breath, right, by the way that they performed early in the game. And then credit to our staff on defense and to our kids to be able to really regain focus, regain confidence, I think, and then bounce back and make a big play in that third possession.
Yeah, the Caleb Street pick 6, one of 2 defensive scores by the Dragons on Saturday. Really was a play that turned that game, the momentum, everything just totally flip-flopped on that play right there. Bobby, you've played a lot of college football in your life. You've been a part of one where you got that kind of a big win?
Not a whole lot of big wins, a lot of big losses. I think we're on the opposite end of some of those drubbings, but, you know, like what Coach said, though, it's amazing how momentum can change in the game, especially if there's no other sport like football where everything's going your way and then one thing doesn't, and the whole complexity of the game changes. So it's awesome to hear that the team didn't flinch and just kind of kept going. So.
And it didn't stop after the first quarter. The second quarter, the Dragons continuing to score points. third quarter, fourth quarter. Justin Wimpy, the freshman, young man, got the other defensive score. A lot of guys. Tyrese Banks, Dorn got in the end zone a couple times. Guys like Ronald Blackman get in the end zone. Like Tyrese Banks, Dorn, he didn't really get a lot of playing time until later. And he's a guy, when you called upon his number last year, boy, he really stepped up for you when you needed it. So it's great to have that kind of depth on that offensive side of football.
No, he's one of those guys, right? You could argue that, he's, I guess, allegedly the fourth running back, right? And we don't really see him that way. We see him as a really good player, that happens to be among a group, and there's some really good players, and,
right.
and so he's a guy we're fortunate to have, I think, put him in a lot of different, locker rooms across the country, and I think, he's a really, really good player there. And so we're fortunate to have him. He's been a dynamic kid on special teams as well. And so I think all of those things kind of go into it. I think anytime you look at a game where we score 79 points, right, you can't do that without tremendous defensive play, right? 2 defensive touchdowns, 5 takeaways, right? And then you also look at the special teams performance where I thought we played with energy, we played with effort, we were disciplined. I was really, really proud of that phase of the game as well. And so it is a total team effort, and to be able to do that. So it was cool to see all 3 phases click in, and then now the master plan is that now we're showing we can do it. So every week, right, It's got to be the same thing over and over and over again.
We mentioned the secondary with a couple of big touchdowns, defensive touchdowns. Robert Holtz, right off the get-go, gets a sack on the first play of the game. I thought he led the defensive line and had a really nice game as well.
He did, yeah. I mean, talk about, Robert's a guy that came to us as a walk-on and has earned absolutely everything he's gotten. Works his tail off day in, day out, is a grinder, is a leader in our locker room, a really, really good dude. And I think that's kind of the underlying theme of this football team, where there's a bunch of guys that have earned the opportunities that they've been given, and it hasn't been one of those things where, they just arrived and it happened. They have grinded in the dark to be able to get to this point. And so that's what I'm really excited for them, is now it's an opportunity for them to keep getting better and to continue to show that work ethic that got them to this point as we go throughout the season. But excited for Rob, and I think, and you're probably going to mention him, and I'm going to beat you to it, but I thought our offensive line played great.
Yeah.
You talk about giving up 1 sack, and you could argue that was maybe more on the quarterback than it was on the boys up front.
Right.
And I think, an ability to run for close to 300 yards and throw for close to 300 yards, you can do that. That's a pretty cool day, and credit to those guys up front.
Yeah, you aren't doing that. The guys up front aren't getting the job done.
No,
and especially on a hot day like that. I mean, that was as hot as it gets when you're down there on the football field, Bobby. I don't know if you've played any games where the heat was like that, but boy, it was intense in the press box. I can't imagine how intense the heat was down on the football field. We saw a lot of guys cramping out there on Saturday.
My first year here, my sophomore year was the first year that we had that turf, so it was always hot. But I did want to go back to what you said about the kid that's a walk-on. I love to hear that kind of story, and I say this a lot because especially in like AAU sports now, a lot of kids get written off when they're 13 or 14 if they're not really good, or they kind of get pressed aside. And I was more like the walk-on kid that had to earn my spot, and I think that's why I love Tiffin when I went here. Now I love it even more because you have a lot of those kids that they didn't get a D1 offer or whatever. Maybe they did and they didn't make it, but you built such a great culture here that those kids all know that if they work hard, they're going to get a shot. And I don't think a lot of other programs can say that.
They're bringing in the kids that got that want-to built into them already. You don't have to build that up in them. That makes going to make it a little bit easier. A guy like Robert, he's not only as a walker, but you can tell he's one of the leaders on that defensive side of the football now, too.
He is.
There's something to be said that there's a lot of programs, and this school used to be like that, too. Like, they'd bring in whoever from another school, give him the spot immediately because he played at Finley or wherever, and that's just not the case anymore.
The coach said you got to earn it each and every week to get your spot on the field come Saturday, each and every week.
Baby.
Yeah, and that's right. And then one of your offensive linemen was over there leading the band after the game with the fight song. So that's always fun. I mean, it's great to be able to celebrate not only with your teammates, but the band's part of it. The cheerleaders are part of it. It's all about to you.
I love that. I'm happy you brought that up, Russ. I think, it's actually, we spent a lot of time as a team talking about that, right? The amount of support and constituents that go into having a successful season, whether it's football, whether it's an academic year, whatever it is, right? The university in general has to all be aligned. And I think, you saw the Dragon Walk, right? 2.5 hours before every home game. You have the band there, you have the cheerleaders there. We play at noon, our band's there at 9 a.m. practicing, right? At 9:30, they're doing the Dragon Walk, right? After that, they're putting their garb on in 105-degree heat, right? I think they had 20-pound gear on, right? And you'd have never known, right? They battled it out. Our cheerleaders were tremendous. I think, one of the unsung heroes of our game days are our baseball program.
They help me out tremendously.
Oh my goodness, and they're our ball boys, right? You're talking about starters in a really good baseball program. They come to us on a Saturday and they grind it out. And we have the best ball boy crew in the entire country. And Coach Wilkins handpicks the best and the brightest to come be our ball boys so we can play fast.
Right.
And so I think that says a lot about Tiffin in the sense of, right, it's everybody aligned and everybody going in the same direction, because if football has a good day, then so does the band, then so does the cheerleading, then so does the university. And when it's baseball season, then we need to be there cheering those guys on, and when it's soccer season and vice versa. So I think the moral of the story is as one team has success, it takes a lot of people behind them, but also it's good for everybody.
Bobby, I noticed you were smiling a lot. Was Coach was saying that?
It's true. It's like, again, I say the word culture a lot. The university has a fantastic culture. I was just at lunch with President Schumacher, and we talked a lot about that, and specifically, the head coach before Chris, Gary, he changed a lot of stuff because we didn't have very good culture, and I've said this to you before. Like, you took what Gary did and really made it better and build upon that, and that's what makes programs successful. And then, like you said, you're involved with like Rudy, the soccer coach. He was here when I was here, and you see all the teams come together for one another, and that wasn't always the case here. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned Gary. My first game as a full-time Tiffin University staff member was Gary's first game, and it's been a lot of fun to see where Gary took it, and now where Chris is taking it up to the next level. And you're mentioning some of the higher ups here at Tiffin University. We might as well take this opportunity to say a big congratulations to Kelly Daniel.
Yes,
Earlier today was named a new athletic director here at Tiffin University. Kelly's got a great familiarity with the campus, the athletic department. We wish her nothing but the best of luck in her new endeavor here on campus.
No, I think it's a tremendous hire for our university. It's a great day for our university, and President Schumacher has shown a really steady hand and continue to elevate our university in a lot of different ways. And I think this hire with Kelly and the other administration that'll support her will allow us to evolve within this department and continue to take it to another level.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about our opponent this Saturday before we catch up a little bit more with Bobby here. So, on the road, going up to New Hampshire to St. Anselm this week, a team who lost a tough road game on our opener. This will be their first home game this coming Saturday. And I took a look at some of their statistics and said their quarterback had about a 70% completion percentage. Not a lot of yards, but it seems like he must be a pretty good decision maker.
Yeah, you know what? I've been really impressed with St. Anselm. I think, offensively they do some things that present some issues. They got a really good tight end, number 87. They've got a really good receiver, number 11. And the quarterback has a really steady hand in terms of being able to figure out where to go with the football. He gets it out of his hand quickly, doesn't take a ton of sacks, right? He forces you to have to be on your P's and Q's in coverage. And they do some different things schematically that I think create issues. And we've got to be prepared and be able to kind of weather some of those different looks that we're going to get. And defensively, much in the same. They play really, really hard. I think when you look at St. Anselm, the one thing that pops off the tape is they play with great effort. They play with great energy. I think it's a tribute to their football staff and their football culture. And then defensively, they pose a ton of issues by the amount of movement, the amount of disguise and scheme that they throw at you. So, we're going to have our hands tied. I think that we've had a really good week of practice to date, and we need to continue to have a great day tomorrow and Thursday and Friday and build upon the week. But it'll be a good test, and our guys have to be able to match the energy and the passion in which St. Anselm will play with, and I'm excited for us to be able to do that.
You always learn a little bit, not only about your kids as players, but also as people when you get a chance to take them on the road the first time. So you're probably looking forward to learn a little bit more about your kids. It's a pretty good haul to get over there to New Hampshire, but it's a learning experience not only for your kids, but for you and your staff too.
Yeah, no, it'll be a 12 and a half, 13-hour drive, and it'll be split up over a couple of days. We leave tomorrow on Thursday and get up there, and we'll go to Albany on Thursday night, practice in Albany on Friday, and then make the rest of the trip up to New Hampshire. So it's going to be a business trip by any sense of the imagination, but anytime you travel early in the year, it's cool to have opportunities for the guys to be around each other, and so we'll make sure that doesn't get lost. It's an opportunity to connect, and these are some of the memories that I think you have as a player. You think about 100%. The trips and the places you go and the things that happen on the bus, and so we're going to be focused and we're going to be steadfast in the idea that we're there to go win a football game, but also I think our program is built on relationships, and so we need to make sure that we continue to invest in those, and a road trip is a good way to do that.
You can tell Chris and I have done this a lot because he mentioned the word memories. My next question was going to come to you, Bobby. You have any memories of some of these long road trips from back in your time?
Well, what's funny is I say this all the time. I can only remember a handful of plays. I played high school, college, professional football for 3 years, a handful of plays. I can tell you 100 stories about being on a bus or in the locker room. We played New Haven. I was a GA after my senior year, and we played New Haven, and that's out there. It's in Connecticut. Yep. Mm-hmm. Same thing. We had to stop, and I forget. I always liked when we had those 2-day trips because you'd stop at a different college, kind of see what they had to offer.
Check out their facilities.
But man, that is really where you bond, and that's when you can tell who your leaders are too, because they're young kids. Of course, we wanted to do idiot stuff, and you always had those leaders that kind of steered you in the right way.
Right.
But I do remember we played West Virginia Wesleyan my senior year, and in the hotel that they put us up in, it was like karaoke night, and none of us slept. I mean, it was loud, and we did not win that game the next day.
But you had some weird songs bouncing around there.
Now I'm like, man, I got to check and make sure
it was
karaoke.
It was loud.
I hadn't thought about karaoke nights. I got to figure that one out.
This Saturday is the Dragons at St. Anselm, a 3:30 kickoff. We'll get started with your pregame show at about 2:30 on the TU Dragon Football Radio Network. They'll handle the stream. If you want to watch it, you can get a link of the stream at the GoTippinDragons.com football page. You can catch the stream there. You can catch the radio, TUDragonRadio.com, or Coast Country 100.9 on your TU Dragon Football Radio Network. So, Bobby, let's catch up a little bit. Yeah. You're on campus today. Tell the folks what you've been up to lately.
Oh, man. Well, I've got 4 kids, so
that keeps you busy.
I think I coach every sport, and I was telling Chris that I coach my kids until I can't, until they, kind of go past my expertise. So that, and my sister and I run a fairly big company. We have 70 assisted living communities in 16 different states, about 4,000 employees. So that certainly keeps me busy. Certainly try to keep up with Tiffin football as much as I can, and get back as much as I can. I was a trustee for 7 years, and I'm actually going to become a trustee again.
Cool.
Schedule's opened up a little bit, so happy to be help out the football team, and Coach and I think are going to come up with some really cool special uniforms for next year.
Well, you've been a great friend of the football program since you left, since you stopped playing, really. So it's pretty cool.
It's easy to again, culture, it's every time I come back to Tiffin, it just feels like home. The only difference is, instead of having the same bedroom, your bedroom keeps getting nicer.
Right. The older you get, the better it gets.
Same thing with the athletes. I mean, you look at the caliber athletes that we have here. When I played, I was fortunate enough. I played Nate Washington, who's still probably our best ever alum.
Stud.
But from that team, I got to look by the Detroit Lions, and I bounced around the Arena League for 3 years. But that was really not normal back then.
Right.
Nate going to the NFL was completely abnormal. We did have a kid named Willie Spencer, but he was a transfer. He only played here for 1 year. So, Nate and I were kind of and I'm definitely not putting my name in the same breath as him, but the first kind of multi-year guys that kind of went on. And then it's really cool because now it's a pretty normal thing, So.
And the way the program has grown, I mean, as an alumni of the football team, it's just got to make you so proud and happy to see the way things are moving. And you mentioned the quality of the athletes we got coming into this campus. It blows my. It's not just football, but football's where you really notice it. But man, the quality of athletes across the board that we've been able to convince these kids to come to Tiffin, Ohio, to compete collegiately, spend their next 4 years here. It's just nothing short of amazing.
I'll tell you what's even more amazing is I taught Coach Croy, Jeremy Croy, who was my track coach when I was here. I don't know what his title is now, big man.
He's got a few titles, I think.
He's got a bunch.
He and I caught up yesterday, and he was saying what's more amazing is that how high a quality the players are, because there was definitely a period of time where even when I was here, you had multiple players getting arrested or academic probation, and had to clean a lot of that up now. And he's like, man, these are really good kids, not just good players. And I think that's more important than anything.
And I mentioned it to you last week, Coach, when we talked about my interactions with local people in the community. When they find out what I do here at Tiffin University, one of the first things they say is, I met Joe or whatever from the football team or so-and-so, and they were the nicest kids. They did this for me. They helped me out with this. So the relationship, and you could attest to this from you, of the athletes with the community has grown as much as anything compared to when you were playing to now.
When I was here, it wasn't a thing. We did a little bit of stuff. But, I know Gary started that, and you really built off of that. It really is.
Character became a thing when Gary came in, and Chris has continued that.
It's important to be involved in your local community. My wife and I, we're not from Fort Wayne, Indiana, but you would never know it because, we're love Fort Wayne, and we're heavily invested in the community, and we're constantly trying to figure out ways to be more invested. And Tiffin's such a great town, similar to where I grew up in Toronto, Ohio, where you can make a big impact here by just time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be money. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great city, and it's just awesome to watch it grow.
Well, we appreciate you making time for us today.
Yeah, thanks for let me sit in. This is fantastic. I will say, the broadcast of the games are awesome. Like for someone like me, like when people ask me who my favorite college football team is, it's Tiffin. And I watch it every week, you know, on the stream and stuff. And so, hopefully this year I'll get to watch us kick Finley's butt in person. And that's always my goal.
Speaking of the streaming, we set a Tiffin University record on Saturday.
Yeah.
More than doubled our highest number that we have ever had on our stream. So people are noticing it's a new digital network this year, so it's a lot of fun. I appreciate you putting that out as well.
Credit to you guys. That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Saturday, Coach, go get them. I know you got a long bus trip you got to get ready for. You got to get these kids to work, but looking forward to catching up with you next week, and hopefully we'll talk about another of them Dragon victories.
Likewise. I love it. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys as always and all the hard work you put into this thing.
Bobby, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate what you do for Tiffin University.
Yeah, thank you.
How about this guy, huh?
Awesome. Thank you for bringing him in today. It made it that much better. Really did.
I love it.
This is the Coach Cris Reisert Show. We do it each and every week. You can find it every week. We'll put it out at the GoTiffinDragons.com website. Find it on YouTube. And next week we'll come back and we'll talk to Coach Cris Reisert one more time. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to catch the Dragons this Saturday at 3:30. You have been watching the Coach Cris Reisert Show.